Welcome back. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE, here at theCUBE's NYSE studio with the NYSE Wired program. Of course, we have our Palo Alto studio connecting Silicon Valley to Wall Street. We're here previewing the Raise Summit in Paris coming up in July. We've got the two founders here. We've got Hadrien and Henri here. Thanks for coming on. Great to see you.
Thanks, John, for having us.
Last year was a great event. This year, again, by popular demand, it's the packed event. Congratulations. And theCUBE will be there. The NYSE Wired will be there as well. So, guys, AI is so hot right now. You guys are in the middle of it. Last year was a huge success at the Louvre. There was a little theft going on there, but, you know, big news there. I'm sure you guys saw that news. It was big. Did they ever catch those guys?
Not yet, unfortunately.
This year, again, back. It really is a big conference, mainly because, one, AI is hot. It's a great conference just on its own. But the international piece is huge. Last year, really started to see the neo-clouds emerging. We saw the conversations from cloud sovereignty to AI sovereignty. What's the big themes this year? What's the focus?
Do you want to take it, Adrian, or take it?
You want to take it?
Okay, I'm going to take it. First of all, John, thanks for having us. Super excited to be partnering with theCUBE and the New York Stock Exchange, obviously. So this year, it's very different from last year. Obviously, as you said, the geopolitical, the macro environment has changed, and we really see it in the reflection of our sponsors and partners. I think sovereign used to be seen as, let's say, not very strong go-to-market argument, but today it's a reality, right? And so you can see it from telco, banks, financial institutions. It's top of mind for them, and it needs to be part of their roadmap. And as you said, I think Raise is an extraordinary platform for all the players because we're based in Paris, we're in Europe. And so we are really seen as an agnostic platform, bridging the US with the European and also Middle East markets, with many of our friends from Asia also visiting Paris for the week. So I think being in the middle of that geopolitical framework is it's fantastic to bring dialogue and bring the conversation, right? Because everyone does business together.
Yeah. Last year, you guys had a great mix of, you had entrepreneurs. In Europe, it's hot right now, entrepreneurs, but it's also very fragmented by country. You had the neo-clouds, the data center growth in Europe is phenomenal, but also bridges the U.S. companies with a lot of U.S. companies there. So you had the entrepreneurs, the builders, you had the operators, and the vendors all kind of mingling together. What's it look like this year? Same mix of
100%. We always had this initial idea of bringing the whole value chain of AI together and have a very international scope. And this is basically what we managed to do back in 2024 for our very first edition. We did it last year too, and it's going to be roughly the same mix in 2026. Always a big representation of US companies, of course, a bit more than 30% of US people attending the event, and mainly from Western Europe too, and Asia will be well represented this year as well. So,
what's the big themes? I mean, obviously agents wasn't as hot as it was last year. I mean, last year wasn't as hot as this year. Agentic will be a focus. What are some of the things that have changed on the scope?
From last year, one of the main observations that we drew from 2025 and one of the main feedback we collected is that we really need to connect the C-levels to the AI native companies, and this is something that we've been working extremely hard on. And we realized that we've seen the evolutions in 2024. In 2024, on a more enterprise scope, it was very much about the discovery of the technology and how to basically understand the technology as a whole. Last year was more about experimentation, and this year is more about implementation. Yeah. So for that reason, we decided to build what we call the CXO Summit, bringing CTOs, CIOs, CSOs from Fortune 1000 corporations to basically discuss in a more Chatham House rule, discuss the main topics of AI today for them, agnostic in terms of industries covered and technologies. So I think it would be the perfect setup for them to really discuss that in the best way as possible. So a big focus on those corporate audience this year that have a lot of questions and need a lot of answers too.
Yeah, I mean, the AI conversation, we've seen it in theCUBE this year. The CXO, the C-suite, has been very active in AI because they're transforming their business. And so they got to get involved in token budgets. I mean, CFOs talking token budgets, but also shadow AI has hit the C-suite too. So you're seeing a lot of AI infused in these companies, and the mandate has been let's reset our company. What can we do with AI? So that's the big conversation. How is that reflected in the program? You got the CXO Summit. Is that going to be on day one, or is
It's going to be on day one, on July 8th. Yeah.
I think that's very integral to what Raise is, being really obsessed by delivering ROI, tangible ROI to our partners. I mean, Raise is less than 3 years old. We have a fantastic growth in terms of revenues, number of partners, and that's part of our DNA to over-deliver and over-execute and bringing, again, that ROI. What we saw, I think there's two trends, right? The AI native companies are growing at such a fast pace. They are starting to be the buyers of the new, let's say, emerging startups that are also AI natives. But we also need to help the AI native companies of the world that are selling tokens to meet the large institutions, the CIOs, CTOs, that are going to make their business mature and durable. And it's like a 12 months work to really bring and being extremely uncompromising again on quality, doing this exercise of understanding, okay, we're the tokens consumers, and to reflect on CFOs. It's fun because Ramp just announced that they will launch EMEA, and so Ramp is going to be a partner and showing up at Raise with their president of international, joining the Raise lineup, and
the CFOs and the chief people officers, basically HR, are getting into the mix. And it's funny, Jensen Huang said 2 years ago that the IT department is the HR for agents. And it was kind of a joke, but he wasn't wrong. I mean, the agents are doing work. So you're starting to see the CFOs and the HR leaders getting involved because now you have workers as agents. And that's become a critical business model change. So AI is not just cool, deep tech that you guys cover. It's the business impact is even more important now than ever before.
Exactly. And I think what is crazy is that those AI native companies are growing at a crazy rate. We all know that. But sometimes we're building our bubble, and what we realize is that enterprise, they didn't really change the pace, right? And so it whether comes from the top, so we say CIOs, CTOs, but it also comes from developers. I mean, Jensen at GTC repeated developers. And so if developers adopt your product and your stack, then it will go up the stack to VP of engineering and so on. So companies need to be attacking the problematic on the two sides of things, right?
What I love about the Raise Summit, you guys have done an exceptional job in, is that you hit the three main groups that we cover, and I think everyone's interested in: developers, AI native developers, you got agentic infrastructure emerging. So developers, whether it's cloud native or AI native, that's growing market. We see OpenClaw and all the things going on there, and just with AI native companies, by the way, too. So developers and entrepreneurs are crushing it. The deep tech conversation is significant too, because you got compliance, you got governance, you got GPUs, XPUs, full stack. Google Next, they just laid out essentially full stack. So there's a great deep tech conversation, deep technology, and then the C-suite. All three of those areas are hot. So I have to ask you guys, how is that playing out in the program itself? What's changed, if anything? Have you guys made an adjustment? I mean, obviously the CXO, you mentioned that. Is there any other tweaks to the program we can expect this year?
Yeah, of course. So basically, with our content team, because obviously the pace is crazy, so you might have to change the program 2 weeks before a race or even like 2 days before a race. And so we created that spine, we call it like the 4F compass, that starts from foundation and goes to future, and the two one in the middle are frontier and friction. Friction is more enterprise-oriented. Frontier, it's what is being developed at the edge, and foundation, it's very linked to AI infrastructure, sovereignty, and so on. What is really interesting is we see a lot of also macro conversation happening at Raise within the future track. One example is the conversation around how to gauge the exponential. Is AI an exponential? And if yes, where are we on the S-curve? And is the human brain's wired for exponential curves? And so, we're going to have like a lot of... Basically, we all know that AI is pretty large, so we're really trying to narrow it down and to make it extremely easy. That's also, I think, Hadrien and his team contribution of making the experience for executives super seamless. They have a problematic. How can we guide you from 0 to 1 during your Raise experience, right?
If I can add something on top of what Henri just said, basically, our initial idea was really to gather the whole value chain and ecosystem of AI, from basically the small startup to the large corporation, with investors as well, public policy. But basically what we're coming up with this year is the Raise Week, which is basically a full week of side events, verticalized side events, so that everyone can find their proper ROI during the week.
Yeah.
And on top of the summit, of course, that is the jewel of the week. But for instance, we haven't talked about it yet, but we're launching a new dedicated physical AI and robotics event called Machina on the 7th, which is part of the Raise Week.
Yeah.
And it's very important for us to tackle those topics in the best way as possible, and with dedicated events for it. So that's a big.
We'll be there
us.
too, by the way. So that's going to be at Station F.
Exactly.
I believe. So the vertical side events is really critical because the vertical application is the hottest area. You look at like where it's popping right now, Harvey AI and legal. You're seeing financial services, insurance, all these verticals, healthcare, bio, all that action is enabled by the AI infrastructure. And also the rise of the neo clouds. Last year we saw that at the event. So that's awesome. How should people think about this? Because, with AI in the enterprise, last year we saw, some, not as much adoption as we had predicted, but we saw coding broke through. So, search, RAG was great, marketing materials, writing copy, great use case for Gen 1 AI. But last year, the coding broke through the enterprise. And people saw real ROI and productivity because that's quantifiable. Code, time, shipping product, driving revenue. So that to me is the beginning of what we're seeing as the agent wave coming in, as well as the sovereignty angle. So there's two things that I'm watching. I want to get your reaction to. The agents, which is going to be real enterprise value and opportunity for entrepreneurs, and then the sovereign geopolitical situation. People are digging in digitally to their borders for not just privacy and the GDPR stuff. There's real value in the countries, from telecom to having their own data centers, because the AI is driving revenue in the countries. That started last year, kind of as a hallway conversation. Is that making it to the main stage this year, sovereignty?
Yeah, it is. And I think like the application layer might be one of the, let's say, less exposed layer of the sovereignty era we are entering in. But basically, this new sovereign AI playbook is redefining the whole AI strategy of those enterprise. Mm-hmm. As you said, from GPU orchestration to AI infrastructure, data center ownership, maybe even some companies willing to go back on-prem. Are we going to use edge models? I think like one of the example is Liquid AI partnership with Mercedes-Benz. We're a very good partner with Ramin and his whole team. And I think it's going to be increasingly complex for AI native companies in their go-to-market to really figure out, okay, what are the new distribution channels? Mm-hmm. And I think that's also why we see a very large tailwind for European AI native companies. And I think they're doing extremely well, not because only they're Europeans, because obviously they're experts in what they do, they over-deliver. If you think of Legora, 11 Labs, Lovable, Mistral, H Company, we're extremely optimistic, and what we see in the market, and also the one investing in us and trusting us. Europe is back and very strong.
Yeah, and there's a lot of entrepreneur conversation last year too. But the sovereign thing's interesting. It's not like just, hey, lock down your country, because you got Google, AWS, Microsoft Azure, the big clouds, even Alibaba, right? So like you have the entire hyperscalers. That's global. So you have a global distributed computing environment and sovereignty in the country. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, let's have a France cloud. You got to work across the U.S. and the hyperscalers, because they have regions too. So it's not just country specific. Yeah. How are you guys seeing that play out? Because last year we saw a lot of conversation around, okay, we want to have sovereignty. What does that look like for you guys? How are you seeing that playing out, the sovereignty equation?
I mean, that's a $10 million question, John.
Come to the event.
I mean, obviously, you're all welcome to join at a raise. I wish I could give you, but from what we saw and from the conversation we're having, there is not an easy answer, right? On the, I think, so even if you could have like an European agenda, you will need, at the infra level, you need to go country by country on specific case per specific case. Let's say you want to build an AI gigafactory in France. You will have probably to partner with a French neocloud provider or a French data center operator. And that's only at the infra level. If you look at the model level, I think Mistral, that's why Mistral has a big tailwind. Aleph Alpha, which used to be the German leading LLM provider. They just merged with Cohere, the Canadian player. I think they really want to go on that go-to-market sovereign AI position. And
well, I bring this up because one of the things that you guys do well is that you have a very cool agenda relative to a lot of interaction, side events. The Louvre is a great venue, and there's a lot of ecosystem activity right now in partnerships. Internationals is a hard equation to crack, as we were just talking about. So, like, there's a lot of deals going down right now as people try to figure out how do they run a global infrastructure, whether you're a large enterprise or a hyperscaler or a startup. Where do you fit in? So these are the kinds of conversations we're hearing. We expect to have at Raise this year. And what's interesting is that there's a lot of money involved. Right? It's like these are big deals. I mean, we're not talking about, hey, I'm doing a partnership with a company in this country. These are like mega biz dev opportunities for these companies who have European operations, have a U.S. operation, have an APJ operation. So you're starting to see a formation of a new ecosystem emerging around this. Is that something that you guys are promoting, or is that active in the agenda?
Yes, a lot. And to give you one example also, very similar to what we just discussed, I think the SaaS apocalypse topic is going to be very big at Race. And we will really try to address the topic from crossover investors to researchers and also software providers, and how do they see being live disrupted.
Well, the investors are very interested in this. I mean, there's a lot of money on the table for just on the investment side, just in data centers, power. That's a big topic this year.
And yeah, if I can add one last thing on this. Again, I think it used to be seen that being sovereign and saying you're sovereign was because you were not as good as your competitors. But I think today it's going to change, right? Yeah. You will be as good as your competitors, but on top of it, you are sovereign. And then it's a no-brainer for the potential enterprise you're going to work with.
All right, guys, give us a taste for the event for the folks that haven't been there. It's at the Louvre. Can I mention that? What are the things going on? What are the activities? I know you got the VVIP events. You got a...
We'll have a VVIP dinner.
Give some details.
We'll have a VVIP dinner for the very first time at the Castle of Versailles on the 7th of July, so the night before the Race Summit starts. It's basically an event where we gather a bit more than 500 participants, our top speakers, top companies, investors, politicians as well from the AI world. So we're really looking forward for this night. Last year was a cruise on the Seine, and it's going to be one of the key highlights of the week, but there will be many more, and we'll announce some of them very soon. So
the CXO event, that's a breakout. You get the physical AI,
yes,
which is like robotics. Anything else going on?
So we have a very large hackathon, hybrid hackathon during the weekend before Race, 500 developers on site, 5,000 online. We have obviously large startup competition, a bit like last year, but that is scaling during Race. And then we have up to 60 side events. On the 6th, we have a global frontier model side event with only top researchers from Chinese, European, and US labs, which is pretty unique because, again, I think the Chinese players rarely discuss with their US counterparts. We have Sneak, who's doing a security in the edge of AI event, AMD Developer Day, and much more.
Well, great event, guys. Thanks for coming on theCUBE. What should people expect when they leave Raise? What do you hope happens for the folks attending, sponsoring? What's the outcome?
Our North Star metric is the word ROI. So basically the right people that you need to meet during the summit. Basically, it's very simple to put people in a room, but then they have to meet each other. And this is one of the key aspects that we've been working on for the year. And we want people to live with the right partners, right meetings, and the right connections after the event. That is the core essence of why we're creating such an event. And we want everyone to leverage that. But we do have people with different objectives and different ROIs. So it's very hard to answer those questions. But this is the main metric that we're following.
Exactly. I will not... perfectly illustrated by Hadrien. I think I would just add framed in a very French luxury experience.
Yeah.
And we create a unique platform that is extremely premium and being obsessed with ROI.
You guys do a great job, and it's a great location, Paris. I love it. Louvre, thanks for coming on theCUBE, and thanks for having theCUBE there. We'll be broadcasting live, so we'll be sharing the action as well. So thanks
on both days. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Thanks again, John, and the whole team for trusting us, and super excited to have you.
All right, we're here at theCUBE Studios, the NYC Wired program. I'm John Furrier, your host. Thanks for watching.
you.